Thanks, Lauren. Okay, so let's get started. Aaron and Michelle have been thinking about the workplace in the near future, and they're going to debut today their concept for a workplace as we all return to our offices in this post-pandemic world. Aaron and Michelle, take it away.
Thank you. Welcome to A Brave New World. We wanted to imagine what a new work environment would be like. We're very positive about work environment. We believe that the work environment, a work environment is viable, vital, and we'd like to reimagine that. We wanted to put visuals to all of the talk about what the new workplace is going to be like. It's a brave and new world. It's a collection of concept ideas. It's about the future of the workplace. It considers the agile workforce. It looks at all the current technologies and future technologies. It looks at teaming innovations. Wellness and health is an important piece of what this new environment is going to be. And we're generally very positive about the new work environment. We looked at it in three sort of buckets. We imagined what the arrival might be. Guests arrive and have a certain experience, and staff have a different type of experience. We looked at how meeting would be and what that flexibility might be like. We looked at work points, and we imagined that working and focus work may not be the same, but we do think that it's still a very viable thing in the work environment. We also like to consider how wellness and how those kinds of attributes are connected to wellness providers, as well as cleaning staff, as well as daylighting. We created a floor plan, and that floor plan is based on amenities, and it has strong connections to the outdoors. It's a very flexible work environment, and the space works really hard to be able to provide lots of flexibility.
So as we start to walk you through what the space actually looks and feels like, we wanted to start at the visitors lobby. We wanted to create a really welcoming and calming experience as you're coming in off the street to really welcome your visitors to your space. So when you first come in, you're going to be greeted by a virtual receptionist. This person could be someone sitting in the office or maybe somebody working remotely, but you still get that face-to-face contact and that sort of personable experience, but in a safe distance way. We imagine all of the technology throughout the space to be touchless. You'll kind of see that hinted throughout the space. And then we really wanted to start taking some things that maybe are a little bit more medical and clinical, like a hand washing station, and really kind of create the design around that. And we wanted something sculptural and really beautiful, bringing in some biophilia and natural light. And we're going to be placing these throughout the space so that you always have that nearby. So it's kind of taking something that's, again, a little more clinical and turning it around and making it a design feature for the space. And then as you start to look from the other angle, we really have been considering social distancing when it comes to higher traffic areas, such as waiting areas. And we've been really inspired. We've had the chance to go outside so often now and spending a lot of times in parks. And we really love the way that parks are designed to kind of have a subtle cueing of where they'd like you to go. And so we've brought that aspect into the seating element here, where maybe it's just a raised portion that indicates some space and distancing between people. And that way it's really something subtle and beautiful rather than tape and signage and that sort of thing. And then we know that PPE provisions are something that visitors are going to want to have access to. So building that in and making that part of a vending area that you can apply to your visitors. Maybe it's branded for the company, but just kind of be able to provide those amenities for visitors. And then we wanted the employees to have their own experience as well, because we know that the transit's going to be a little stressful for people. You're coming in off the street, coming in from a public area, and what does that transition into the workspace feel like? So we wanted to create kind of a spa experience, really something very Zen-like, that you're able to, if you ride your bike to work, you have bike parking, all of the practical things like storage lockers, touchless lockers, if you're bringing in your mice or your keyboard, someplace to store that sort of thing. And then just have kind of a stopping point as you move your way into the space. We're also going to be looking at several different amenities that we think need to be added for spaces of the future that take into account all of the things that people are really concerned about and give people a level of comfort. And one of those is access to the cleaning staff. So what we've done previously in projects where we've given access to IT people through IT help desk, tech stops, that sort of thing. We love the idea of having your cleaning staff front and center. They're approachable. There's somebody always ready there to answer questions. Maybe this is where you store the PPE for your employees, or green cleaning products for those that want to wipe down shared surfaces, hand washing stations located adjacent as well. But we love the idea of also making sure things were dual function, and if some of the restrictions ease, or if this becomes less of a concern, the program changes, this could easily become something fun like a work point, or maybe an espresso bar, or some other amenity, something very flexible.
We imagine the open office to be flexible. We imagine it to be spacious. We imagine not lots of natural light. We imagine lots of access to operable windows, as well as defining circulation in flooring patterns and those kinds of ideas. The idea here is that when you're walking through space, that you feel safe, and being able to sense in major circulation areas where the aisleways are wider, the flooring pattern begins to define how you move about space. And of course, the notion that washing your hands is not something where you walk away and have to go into a restroom and do that, where it becomes a common architectural element where you're able to access the washing your hands quite easily. We also imagine in the meeting spaces where, using current products and current technology, that flexibility is going to be key. So in a lower density scenario, you might imagine larger meeting rooms. When you do have a scenario where the occupancies are higher, you could imagine that you can break down spaces into smaller meeting spaces. And of course, all of this will be operated by voice-enabled technology, current and future. Imagine that there's still going to be better technologies to be able to operate these types of functions. And of course, current technologies such as whiteboards that connects to teams as well.
We've been having a lot of discussions about company culture because it's such a big driver for why people want to come back to the office. I think we're all missing it. I know we get to connect this way, but being able to connect with coworkers in person in your space, people coming in remotely, and creating sort of a heart of the space, the center of the space. And what we've designed here is an atrium space in the center. So you're bringing in all of that natural daylight, but you're also creating a hub for people to come together. And it's a true multi-purpose space. You could use it for town hall meetings. You could even break it into smaller sections for people to do teamings, or even just add in additional work points. But really creating a heart of the space and giving people even more drivers for participation within the office. And we're in California, so we love taking advantage of as much outdoor space as possible. So again, not a new concept, but I think what we're going to start seeing is the enhancement of, if we're going to be moving more towards a work point style, really bringing in the technology piece here and having people able to connect while they're outdoors. Maybe there's even monitors, you're able to take video conference calls, and we're really able to open up the space and take advantage of the exterior as much as possible. We know food is such a key element to company culture and just overall employee wellness and happiness. And so how do we do that when we know that pantries tend to get really congested? We've actually spread them apart and made several what we're calling pantry nodes, which are really just touch points in each of the open areas. And all the walls are lowered, so you have really great visibility into the space to see if it's crowded or not, and then you just go at the appropriate time. We also know things like prepackaged snacks and automated drink dispensers, that sort of thing will become even more prevalent in these areas. And when it comes to cafe and dining, we know that, we wanted to work on eliminating the queue. What would it be like if you could just order through an app and maybe that order goes to the kitchen and they can pre-plate something and leave it in one of these touchless lockers? We could have a pre-plated meal menu where people could just come and take what they needed, but it still has the visibility to seeing the kitchen staff and really having that visual connection to the people preparing your food we thought was so important. And then social distancing, even in the seating, something that's easily reconfigurable. Those panels, you could remove them if you wanted to ever densify, but really creating a lot of flexibility in this environment.
We love food trucks. We imagined that there might be a different way to do that. And we did some research on vending machines, and we know that the quality of vending machine food is becoming better and better. In fact, there's several chefs out there who are working with vending machine companies to produce really good quality food. So we had fun with the idea of a digital food truck space where you would go out and find these different types of food via vending machines, potentially cloaked as food trucks, and you would then be able to order that food through your app as well, and your ability to have you lessen your ability to have contact with people through this whole experience. We looked at wellness and that ability to bring healthcare providers into the work environment, similarly to changing the whole perspective of the cleaning crew. The cleaning crew's there all the time. The access to a wellness clinic is there as well. There could be a nurse on site. There could be a nurse virtually. You're able to schedule appointments with your doctor. The wellness center has the ability to, you can do your own blood pressure, and that information gets to your doctor or your nurse before you get in there. And it's also a place for individual meditation and yoga.
Onto the exciting topic of restrooms. We actually really love this idea, and we're hoping that we can start to take some of these ideas, not just apply them to our TI projects, but also talk with developers and people who are building the buildings and even the building departments to start to look at more universal design ideas. And so this concept around restrooms was, how do we get everybody to not have to wait in line? How do we get everybody moving through here in the most clean sanitization way possible? So this is the idea that each of these restrooms is an all-gender restroom, which means anybody could come through, one-way traffic, so you're not having cross traffic. And it does give us the opportunity to start to look at some things like UV sanitization in these smaller rooms. So we know that places that are, highly utilized, even though they're touchless, are really easy to clean. And so we really love this idea and wanted to try to push this concept forward and maybe even kind of change building designs of the future, start relooking at cores. We had several other things too that didn't necessarily fit within the project that we were imagining, but still were definitely food for thought. This one is looking at a multi-story building and how do you kind of transverse through the space. And this is what we're calling the human stair. It basically takes the idea of the human, the DNA molecule, that same sort of architectural spiral, and creates two-way traffic where you still have a lot of visibility and being able to see everybody. It's a very beautiful feature, especially it could be done in the middle of a space and could be a nice point of circulation, but still allows people to have some distance as they're going up and down. We've done a lot of research talking with our MEP partners, and they're at the forefront as well and starting to look at all of the different ways of moving air through the space and getting better circulation. What you saw as a little bit of a gesture in our open office was actually this model. This is the idea, something that's actually really popular in APAC and in a lot of Europe, where you have a raised floor air supply. That air is coming up through the floor and being sucked out through the return air plenum. This is just one of many different ways of looking at it, but it's definitely something that we're going to have to start incorporating even earlier and really engaging with our MEP partners. And then this one is really about how do we take something that we're seeing actually being applied in spaces and make it even more architectural and beautiful. So this was inspired by something we actually have seen in a couple of locations. I believe the Hong Kong airport is actually doing this in a much less beautiful fashion, but it's the idea of kind of transitioning from the exterior of your space into the interior, and how can we provide a cleansing opportunity in that scenario. And so this is using mist sanitization. It's a portal that you walk through. It's a really nice architectural gesture that you could add biophilia to. We know there's other technologies that could be embedded. So as people go and come and go, this is something they could pass through that would just give them that extra level of comfort. So if you want to see more of our space, we actually created a walkthrough video. If you go to the link that we're showing here, you can kind of get a sense of what it feels like to move through the space that we've designed. And we're very excited to share it with you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dan and Michelle. We have some questions that have come up, and here's one. Now more, and it's from Tiana. Now more than ever, safe materials are important. What healthy, cleanable materials and finishes will be important for reimagined spaces? What applications, for example, privacy panels, will be considered?
I think, yes, all of the above. I think one of the things that we're still researching and really curious about is if you applied all of the cleanable surface currently that that people are imagining, it does start to create a bit of a sterile environment. I think that we are still sort of fascinated by materials that don't seem too medical or too clinical, but we are still very, like, from a conceptual level, we're still very fascinated, and we'll continue to research materials that still have a bit of hospitality-ness to it, but still not be clinical.
Another question. This is about the bathroom, the washrooms. Can you achieve this restroom design with the fixture counts and the footprint that developers want to dedicate to this amenity?
That's a really great question. I think it also goes back to what the building departments are currently requiring. I think part of our job is to push that and to really show how it would work and how it would function. I think that us working with developers and the building department to figure out a way to relook at how restrooms are calculated, what counts are appropriate. I think we can relook at the basis of how these spaces are being used. Full occupancy is different than kind of a mixed occupancy or people coming in shifts. And I think we have a lot of opportunity here to work with both developers and building departments to reshape what that looks like for the future.
Yeah, we imagine that this particular idea is a bigger picture than what it is now. We were thinking that if a developer were brave enough to do restrooms that take more footprint, that potentially cost more money, that they would in essence have a safer building that they would market. Similarly, someone's marketing a LEED Platinum building or those kinds of things, that we want to start the momentum in people beginning to think about a safe building.
Great. Okay, we'll return to this project, but I want to move on.